Welcome back. Let's have a look and see how we can improve the design. First of all, let's handle screen 2, the rating system. Drag it inside the resources frame and move the icon next to the other ones. Okay, this is perfect. Now make it into a component, and when that's done, please drag out a copy. Now, putting back the emoji inside the auto layout frame may be a bit tricky on the canvas itself, but if you can't manage, just use the layers panel. Drag and drop it. Okay, remember, never put a main component inside another one. That doesn't work. Okay, let's make this into a component and then we're gonna add a variant. Now, we could potentially do 3 of them. That's what the brief says, but I'm gonna keep it a bit simpler. So drag in another emoji, an angry one, and you do have one attached and it's called exactly that, angry. This needs to be 40 by 40 and the color, that's clearly bad. Now, I don't have a specific color code in mind, just go with something that looks different enough from our orange. Some people might mistake our orange for red, so make sure that you use something that's different enough. Okay, let's make the angry emoji a component as well. Then obviously drag out a copy. By the way, I'm constantly forgetting one thing. Whenever you make an icon into a component, please make sure that you set an auto layout. So that's Shift A. Every single icon here needs this Shift A treatment. Otherwise, it's not gonna look nice. Okay, now let's see what's what. Now, this might be a bit difficult, but I really want you to do it this way. So after you have a variant of the original card, remove the green emoji and let's swap it manually with the angry one. Now again, you should use your layers panel for this thing. This is the harder way to do it, but I really think it's worth it. Remember, always work with clones, not with original components. I'm gonna say that over and over because it's quite important. Okay, you can also replace the percentages and the number of votes if you haven't done so already. Just make it feel real. And when it's all said and done, you can drag out a copy from the assets panel or anywhere else and test it out. You can name the property, state, or status, or something along those lines. As for the variants themselves, good or bad, positive or negative, green or red, whatever works best for you. I repeat, nobody actually cares, it's only for you. What matters most is you keep things simple and intuitive. Take your time and add clones to screen number 2. After that, I think that we're just about done with it. Now, could we have used auto layout and various other things for the restaurant entry? 100% sure we could. Make the entire thing into a component, maybe make a few variants for those cases where the restaurant is closed for the day, for example. But now we're talking about fine-tuning stuff that's usually done at the end of an expensive project. Basically, it's more of the same techniques, so I'm gonna skip that and call this one done. Instead, let's do this. To practice my speed, I'm gonna redo the login and register tabs, but with a white background, a clean one. So let's do this. Let's start with a copy of screen number 3. Now, let's see how fast we can handle things. For the title swap, please change it out with please log in or register. Then, no info icon on the right side. We don't need it. And basically that's done for the top part. Now for the tabs, let's resize the active bar. 360 it is, half of 720 because we only need 2 layers. And that's register and then log in. Please replace the text, but we can keep the styling as it is. Orange and bold, and then regular and gray for the other one, for the inactive one. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna enable the all caps transformation. This is a bit hidden in Figma, but that's totally fine. Okay, this is gonna go. Remember to center the active bar as before, though before you do that, you might want to change the text to center text instead of left. That's gonna help us with our alignment. Okay, now the tabs themselves, they take only a minute, but while I handle that, think about the fields. So they're white, and this is a white background. And that's gonna be trouble. So let's think. Now we could enable a drop shadow, but I really don't want an ugly one. I prefer soft shadows that don't stand out. Really visible ones are quite ugly. So because of that, I think we're gonna use a colored background. We're gonna change it. So until then, remove all the entries. And here's the fastest way to work. Grab all the fields from the other version of this screen and then drag out a copy here. Now place everything 30 pixels from the top and you should be good to go. I hope you're seeing the issue with white on white. It's not gonna work. Now to fix it, select the artboard and then let's sample the color from screen number 2. Now the color code, in case you're following along, is F0, F1, F8. But it's simpler and faster to sample it, so that's what the eyedropper tool is for. So let's put it to good use, right? But even with the background, the fields still don't stand out. Plus the label is white as well. So what should we do? Well, this calls for a variant. Let's go back to the resources frame and see what we can do. Always take your time to arrange all these guys correctly. In general, you would have them on a separate page with infinite space, but I wanted to keep them close so you constantly see them. Okay, let's create the variant and call it for simple BG, for simple background, or something like that makes sense to you. Now the label has to be blue, same weight but different color. It should look nice. Now, as for the asterisk, that's gonna show quite well in orange, I believe. It's gonna stand out. Now we're gonna see in a minute if it does indeed look nice. Now for the field itself, let's go with a basic shadow. I'll actually keep the settings at their defaults. Now here's the thing, we could actually use a border as well, or try out various other things, but all in all, I'm pretty happy so far. Now let's go and try it out and you're gonna see something. When you change all of these fields to the other variant, to the new one, only the shadow applies. The label color doesn't actually change. And here's why. Go back to the variant. If you want to be able to edit your label or hints, then change the variant to another state, specifically change its color, you will have to use a fill. Here we have two colors, but to make this easier, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna remove the asterisk so the fill won't be mixed anymore. That's what's causing the problems. Now it should be blue, the main color. So now if we go and try it out, you're gonna see this works quite well. We can even change the content of the label and then switch between states. So we're changing the actual text and then we're applying the new state and it works. It's all fine and well. So that was the issue. We were having mixed under fill and that was screwing up things for the Figma. But what about the mandatory symbol, the asterisk? Well, the asterisk needs to be set as another text layer. So let's make that happen. So once you have it, make sure it's arranged correctly. Then set up the fill. Now for the first one, this has to be yellow of course, because it's for the color background. Okay, select it with the label and then use Shift A. By default, they're gonna be stacked, but you can change the orientation from here. From vertical, go to horizontal. And basically, we're good to go. Repeat the same thing on the variant. Add the star, change its color to our orange, then use an auto layout on it along with the label. Okay, now change the orientation, and basically, we're good to go. So let me recap. Because we had two different colors in the label, when we switched variants, when we switched states, the label remained white. Figma was getting confused. To fix that, we've separated the asterisk and we've applied one color for the label and another one for the star. Plus, one thing that you can do is set up a text style. Call it label or whatever you want. Label I think is pretty fine. Just in case you get a double star on the previous screens, that's just because I manually typed it in. You probably did the same thing. So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to remove it one by one. One thing to note is that I didn't make the asterisk into a component. There's no need for that, at least not right now. Okay, I think we're pretty good. Please make sure that you watch this lecture at least twice. I really wanted to include this in the course because it's a mistake I've done myself when I first got started with variants, and I think it's best that you know about it. As I work in the background, let me tell you the takeaway. When you're dealing with buttons or fields, always think about the states from the get-go and create them ASAP, as soon as possible. You know most buttons will need a disabled state. you know most fields will require an on or off label. So that's experience for you. So in the next project, you can immediately create them. And of course, you can take it even further. You can think about hover states if this is a website, or active states for the field, maybe validation, maybe a red stroke when you put in the wrong format for the password, maybe the password is too short, things like that, right? Maybe a green stroke on the field if everything is fine. Now, all of those things are best handled at the start. Otherwise, you might have issues like the one we just encountered. Now, before we end, I'd like to change the position of the buttons. At the bottom, 32 pixels from the edge. I've done this before in other projects and I think it really makes sense to the user. Basically, you get used to this position and it's easier for the user. You know that it's there, always at the bottom. Okay, with that, let's continue.